Welcome back to Real Garage. Today I got Mark McDonald here helping me out. You might remember Mark from the roll cage episode we did a while back. We're falling a little behind on this project and it's time to double team it. Mark's going to be working on the trans tunnel and I'm going to start hacking the back seat.
Let's do it.
I'm ready.
All right.
Narrowing the back seat isn't fun, but we have to do it because we installed these much wider wheel tubs back in season 1, episode 2. And we have to make some clearance for the 4-link suspension mounts. So there's a couple ways you can do this, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But first, we need to strip the upholstery off of these frames.
All right, so while Andy's working on the rear seat, I'm going to show you guys how to modify the transmission tunnel and firewall for the modern transmission that Andy's going to run. It's going to be a 4L80 overdrive transmission. Also, this car is going to have a lowered ride height. When you do that, you have to raise the motor and trans to get the proper drive-on angles. And of course, you're going to have to raise the trans tunnel to accommodate all that. All right, so first I'm going to mark out a straight line. I want to go up as far as I can to where the straight section, right before it hits the radius. So I'll just use this yardstick. You don't have to be flat, like level with the car, because this is just a place we need to cut to get this top out. So I'll go all the way front to back. And in the front up here, I'll finish getting the seam sewer out, and I have to drill the spot welds out. And some of these cars didn't have a console in them, some did. So I'm gonna get rid of this console now because Andy's not gonna use that. So if we do it in the piece, there'll be less stuff I have to weld up. Always cutting the radius, it's a lot easier if you're cutting with a cutoff wheel or a body saw. You can just follow the radius around. All right, so we got the top cut out. 2 inches higher than stock is where we want to be. So I made this little piece of wood just for reference and a real quick check gauge. So lay it on top of the tunnel. I use a piece of 1/8 inch aluminum fillet rod for my profile. So I'll just kind of shape it to the profile I want. And this is, I'll show you guys in a minute how I use this to lay out the new piece. Let's make our new piece 39 inches.
So earlier I said that narrowing these seats is not fun, and for a couple reasons. One, there is a ton of these little clips that are holding this thing together that you gotta peel apart. And two, there's about 55 years of dust and disintegration going on with these things. So get yourself a good mask. Otherwise you'll be coughing your lungs up shortly. All right, for taking these clips off, some people use just a side cutters and they clip them. I still like to use the side cutters because it pinches those clips pretty easily, but I just peel them off. So if I just take them and actually just twist them, they come off pretty easily. If you cut them, by the time you get a dozen of them done, your wrist feels like it's gonna explode. All right, one more to go.
So what I'm doing is going every 1/4 inch and making a line. I'll show you guys how I'm going to make this an English wheel. And these lines are so I'll have a guide when I'm going through the wheel. I'm going to use a rubber tire on the top and a big radius wheel on the bottom to get this radius in there. You can do this in a sheet metal brake as well, and they call it bumping it, so you can bump the radius, but you always have these little hard edges on it. Yeah, it ain't a real smooth way to do it, but you know, if you don't have an English wheel. This principle is still the same. If you have a brake, you know, you want to go every 1/4 inch, and like I say, they call it bumping it in a brake. Just a small bump, bends it, and then you end up with a radius at the end. But like I said, it's going to be notchy. All right, I think that'll work.
Warning: read and follow all labels and your owner's manuals.
About the front edge of these seat pans, the tunnel needs to be, cut it on both sides up to about the radius. And what we'll do is we'll pinch the tunnel up. So what it does, it makes this flat, all right, and then the transition comes down. So really what that's for, it gives you a flat area to mount. It's parallel with the car to mount shifters, or if you're going with a 6-speed, it comes up, the boot mounts to the floor really nice, so it's not with a awkward angle or anything. So what I'm going to do next, I'm going to cut the excess material off the inside so we can do a butt weld. So when we're done finishing the weld, grinding it, it's clean inside and out. Got the Multimatic set to 18 gauge on the auto set, and we're using 70S6 filler wire. Next, I'm going to start trimming and getting this thing ready to weld. So I'm going to cut it, align the panels, tack weld it, and I'll work my way all the way down this side, then that side, and meet in the back. Once that's done, I'll get the tacks dressed down, make sure the panels are aligned good, hammer dolly it where needed, and then we get ready for welding. First off, I want to get the reference lines to where we're going to cut this and basically where we need to go. I do know from experience the top of this tunnel needs to be roughly with the top of the hole for the steering column here. All right, so also we're going to do away with the original throttle shaft mount for the pedal in there. This is going to give us more firewall room for the engine. And then we're going to transfer cut line to the inside, basically where we cut the trans tunnel on the floor pan. I'm going to draw a line from there all the way out to this. So, like I said, I'll have to add some material when we cut this out and get it flat. Do some hammer and dolly work on the firewall. So I'm going to go ahead and cut the hump off for the stock accelerator pedal where the shaft came through. And while I'm at it, I'm going to make it a little bigger and get rid of this hole too. So cut all this out and we'll fix two things at once. So I was able to get a lot of the wrinkles out and get a lot of that nonsense out of the way. One little place to weld up, no big deal. Added our difference of how high it needs to go on the sides.
It's perfect, actually.
Yeah, little grinding, hammering, and we're ready to fit this thing in place and trim and fit.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I'm easy.
Yeah, cool.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So for narrowing the frame, it's not just as simple as making a cut down the middle and pulling it together and re-welding it. My wheel tubs are about 2.5 inches wider than stock on each side. So that means I need to remove 5 inches of material on this seat. And if you try to take it out of the middle, that's going to screw you up in 2 different ways. First, what it's going to do is it's going to mess up the clearance for your drive shaft tunnel. And second, these outer clips will be moved in so they don't align with the mounts on the frame. So everything's going to be screwed up. So what I need to do is take 2.5 inches out from each side, pull it together, and re-weld it. So I'm going to actually be removing 1 whole set of these springs on each side. So I'm actually taking some zip ties here real quick, and I'm tying this down into position because when I cut this piece out, this is going to help me line it up better. It's going to keep everything into position. So I guess you could call it a hack before I hack. So for welding these things back together, there's a couple different material thicknesses I'm working with here. These top pieces of the springs are actually a little bit thicker than 1/8 inch, but I'm setting my machine for a little bit less than that. And for this, I'm using the Multimatic 215 because, well, Mark's using my Multimatic 220, so I had to borrow a Multimatic 215. So I've got it set for 14 gauge for doing these top pieces. Now the bottom sheet metal frame, it's 18 gauge. So I'm gonna reset the machine when I have to weld those pieces together. And I'll probably use the same 14 gauge setting for these other pieces in here, even though they're even thicker than the 1/8 inch. I also took a piece of the drop-off material and doubled it up on these top springs. And it's gonna help me with my alignment, and it's gonna make that joint a little bit stronger because it's overlapping. Just like that. And rinse and repeat 3 more times. Alright, let's check this out. Let's see, I'm about right in the middle of my mount.
Yep, those things here.
Okay. I got about 1 3/8, not quite 1.5 inches to the wheel well.
Yeah, that's what the micrometer says over here too.
Micrometer.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay. And so we're pretty squared up. Okay, so the seat bottom's actually gonna probably turn out to be easier than the back. Really all I gotta do for this is to notch this corner out as well as the other side, then flip it upside down and weld it on the other side. That way it'll create a little knockout for clearance for the wheel tub. Then I gotta cut this little brace out and move it over for clearance for the 4-link. So, should be pretty easy. The seat bottom has been a lot more work than I thought. Once I got the corners notched out for the wheel tubs, I had to cut out parts of the back frame to clear the 4-link mounts. I'll also need to reposition a couple springs. Now let's make some reinforcing bars to bridge the gap that I cut out. This will firm up the frame, and my upholstery girl definitely hates a flimsy frame. I use 3/16 round stock for this. Okay, so my little bridges I made, those are 3/16, and the very outer part of this frame is actually 16 gauge. So I'm gonna play it conservative. I'm setting my Multimatic 215 for 16 gauge. Partially because even though the round stock is 3/16, you're not welding all the way through the thick part of it. You're just welding along the round edge of it. So you don't need that full 3/16 power. Yeah, firm that up real nice. So next thing I gotta do is take this other spring piece like I did for the side over here, is bend this and reshape it so that it attaches to the bottom, because that's gonna give me clearance here for that 4-link pocket. I've already did this one, so now it's basically just reshape this piece of spring steel. It's not too bad to do. It's tough, but the spring is tough, but it actually does bend. There. So ultimately what I'm trying to do is just make sure I'm keeping the same shape. And I'll probably connect that with just a real small hose clamp for now. I think that's it. We're done. Wow, that looks better than factory.
No, I probably should have made a new piece, but I thought it would look better if I got all those wrinkles out, because it, it's a stock piece. So.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what you did in a day would take me 2.5 days or 3 days.
It's practice.
Yeah. Oh, no doubt. It pays to have somebody with a lot of this first-gen experience. So, yeah. No, I greatly appreciate your help.
So I really dig this new welder. I've never used one of these Multimatics, especially the MIG side of it. I had to go down to 24 gauge a couple of times because the Firewall, when they stamp these, it gets thinner where the metal stretches. Mm-hmm. So I was able to dial that in some places and not blow through and keep the weld small as possible.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, and especially where it was wrinkled and overlapped where you had to beat it out.
Yeah, for sure. Yep.
Excellent. Well, cool. Well, thanks for your help.
Oh, anytime.
And next time on Real Garage, we're going to try and figure out my dash problems.